There's a lot of people that sacrifice their happiness to enjoy later, waiting for the perfect time or someday to come around. That never comes around for a lot of people, even when they exit businesses, when they retire. They've got a couple of good years and then bang. And it's like, that depresses me more than anything.
Here's the one.
I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I could do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Capital hacking begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Capital Hacking, John Edwin. Infamous. Actually, infamous is not a good word, John, but you're famous.
I've been called worse than infamous, Josh. You know what? If you're listening and you're not looking and watching the YouTube, so Josh always comes in with this amazing tomahawk. Like he starts like way back, like 4 feet from the microphone, and tomahawks to our show every time, and it is an epic move, dude. You have to trademark that.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? It's we call it the Mariah Carey because you have to move away from the mic if you're going to yell, or else they pop. Now, for all of you listeners who love podcast Inside Baseball, that was for you.
That was.
For those of you who are critical listeners who want the best content of all time for audio masterminding, then you're in the right place because we went out to Australia and we grabbed Travis Bell.
We went to the future, Josh. So Travis Bell, it was 8:00 in the morning for him in Australia. Tomorrow, it's a Monday at 4:00 for us, but it was a Tuesday at 8 a.m. for Travis Bell. So we did travel to the future to get this show.
Okay, so for those of you who haven't met this dude yet, he's truly a dude, right? I mean, like this guy comes across as a surfer, as an Australian. He's like out of the movie. He might as well be friends with Crocodile Dundee or something. He's so cool. But he's not cool because he grabs the crocodiles. He's cool because he created the Bucketlist guy website and really reinvented what I think of as Bucketlist. And he's been doing it for a long time. He's a world famous speaker. Travels the world, has a great book, and he surprises us with the content, doesn't he, John?
Yeah, Josh, and to our listeners, you guys get ready because he really, I think, out of all the interviews we've been doing, he's given the most tangible content to our listeners so far. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you guys are digging in here, you'll hear I share my Google review with him in a sense of his talks, which I've heard them more than once. And, you know, at first I didn't understand why I would want to invest time in the bucket list because a lot of my friends do it. John probably does it. But I'm like, someday maybe, I'm not too sure. But he put me, not a skeptic, but not a passionate bucket list guy. I'm not a passionate bucket list guy. And he's pivoted me on my head. Now, the way he explains it, I'm all in. So that's a little tease. Hopefully that does something for you as well.
Yeah, we don't want to give away too much. Don't
give away too much. But when you're here, we're going to, not only are we going to talk about the positive psychology that he trains us on, which I never heard that definition before till now, but at the end, we're going to learn why he's so interested in business. And he's built many very successful businesses. Teaser alert. It's one of our favorite books, E-Myth. I was surprised to hear that Michael Gerber in there. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So great guest. I think you're going to love it.
Let's go.
Welcome to the big show, Mr. Trav Bell.
Oh my God. Josh, John, stoked to be on.
I took your breath away there. But Trav, John and I know you well. Tell us, go back in time. First of all, where are you living right now? And what kind of work are you doing for those who are listening today who have not yet fallen in love with you as we have?
Wow. Love is a strong word. Look, I am in about an hour and a half out of Melbourne here in Australia. It is a Tuesday here. I believe it's Monday where you guys are from. I am from the future and the future looks very bright. So I'm in the colder part of Australia, hence the puffer jacket, and it's actually meant to be summer here. So mate, I am literally just, running everything from home, my business from home as the bucket list guy. I've done for about 12 years now. And speaker, coach, author, helper to millions, hopefully.
I love, definitely are.
And so, Trav, take us a little bit about like where you started from. I know that you were a trainer. I was also a trainer for 20 years. So, common and how you scaled your personal training business and then made the switch to becoming a professional speaker, a bucket list.
Yeah. Look, real quick. Like growing up as what you call in the States as a jock, I was a swimmer, surf lifesaver, and competing, and that led me to do a physical education degree. Third year uni, I had a mentor. One of the lecturers came in. He was doing this thing called personal training in the early 90s, and this wasn't a thing. I didn't even know what it was. So there's just people working at a gym or not. And so he was doing, and he was training these celebrities around Melbourne, and, like wealthy people. And I'm like, how much do you get paid per hour? About $200. This is like in the early $200 an hour. I'm like, kids swimming teaching, personal training. That's interesting. Not just about the money, but he really, I just thought it was what gyms were lacking, that personal touch. This is back in the days when there wasn't an industry. So we, had to sort of explain what personal training was versus just selling it. I had to educate first before you sell. So got my first client at a local gym, called $25 an hour, a little bit different now. And I started personal training the third year uni. And by the end of my third year uni, I had a full book of personal training clients, and I was so full, I started to hire staff. I had got a studio in Melbourne, one of the first personal training studios here in Melbourne, had 13 staff working for me under doing that. And we're doing corporate programs, all sorts of things. And a few of my employees said, I wouldn't mind doing one of these studios. So I was the first to franchise personal training studios here in Australia. We had a chain of personal training studios, tens of thousands of clients, over 2 million personal training sessions, a heap of personal trainers working under the umbrella. And that was all great. And it was all, really helped put personal training on the map here in Australia, and wrote, I had a hand in writing the code of ethics for personal trainers here in Australia. Whether anyone's stuck by them since, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I did that for 20 years, but then I became too much of a lawyer, I guess too much of an accountant, and I lost people contact, I let some toxic people into my system. Some other stuff was going through on my life. And at the end of the day, I started to fall out of love for personal training. Love the end product, but the business model, I was probably too immature for it. And I started to slip into a depression, albeit mild. But instead of going on heavy antidepressants and putting a Band-Aid over the top of it, I wanted to get to the root cause of my own psychology. And so I went into all the different courses, positive psychology, NLP courses, anything, and started to work out some stuff about myself, and which was really beneficial. And about 2 years into that kind of journey, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you're in all these courses, Trav, why don't you teach this stuff?" And it was like this light bulb kind of moment. And I went, yeah, that's why I worked out some stuff around myself, my own psyche. And it was just this epiphany. And about a month later, I put on a public talk, and I had to pay the 40 people to come to that talk. It was shit compared to what I do now. And this is about 12 years ago. And I started about halfway through that talk, I sort of packaged in all my entrepreneurial stuff and all the mindset stuff that I've been learning. And about halfway through that talk, I started sharing the fact that I had a list to do before I die since I was 18. And no one knew this about me. And I said, well, who else has got one of these lists to do before you die? Actually written down out of your head. And donuts. And I said, well, why do you get up in the morning? Why do you want to earn more money and more time? And most people's response still to this day is pay off the house, put the kids through school, do a bit of trouble when I'm older. Yeah, and probably sicker. So at the end of that tour, one of the participants said, hey, Trav, how's all this list to do before you die stuff? It's fired everyone up. It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy. And I went, ping, another light bulb moment. Went home, registered the bucketlistguy.com. And in that moment, I was transitioning really out of personal training, and I was over it. As you're probably aware, John, the early mornings, late nights, that, split shift kind of thing, it does your head in. And even though I was quite leveraged, I was just over it, and right around that time, Tim Ferriss came out with his 4-hour work week freaking book, and he's running all his shit from Thailand on a hammock. And here I am with all these corporate leases around Australia. I'm like, burden, freedom. I'm like, this online business model looks pretty cool. And for me also, speaking, I saw some really cool speakers around that time. And I'm like, if I could do that, so I grew up relatively shy. If I could do that, if I could speak like that, I that was the big domino for me in life. And it would affect a lot of other things. And I could keep coaching one to many, but not just talk about health, but I could talk about life. And so it all kind of came together. I did some values elicitation stuff, and I made a decision to just go online full time and leverage over the next year, 2 years. I sold off my franchise, defranchised the whole thing, sold off the 3 studios that I owned. Still, a lot of them are going today under different brands, which is great. And I've been reverse engineering the Bucketlist guy ever since. So there you go. The 12 years later, and here I am. I'm still like, as serial entrepreneurs, as you guys, as serial entrepreneurs, if I can maintain a focus for a week, that's a freaking miracle. Let alone 12 years.
No, man, I have so many things I want to add, John, but I don't want to interrupt you because you're probably on the edge of your seat, John. You probably have 20 things you want to know about Trav Bell. I'll let you go.
Well, one of the things I was going to share, and Trav, you said like I would understand it. Yeah, I mean, when you're a personal trainer, you're really trading your time for the income. And the income is great when you're successful like us, but it is a big, big time constraint. And you said early mornings. I used to wake up every day at like between 3:45 to 4:30. And it is wild. So to be able to make a larger impact like you do and go speak and also then run your business on the internet, that's an amazing pivot that you made. What do you got, Josh?
Well, no, I just want to thank you. Because let me set the stage as we probably already did in the intro, but, Trav Bell is a dynamic speaker. I don't know if you know him, Mr. Bell, but this guy named Trav Bell is a dynamic speaker. I've heard him twice now. I've met you 2 times while you've been in the U.S. And both times I'm like, this guy is a game changer on the way you present, the great stories, the drop, a lot of wisdom, a lot of surprise endings to the technique. So there's a lot of technique that you've done in your presentations, but that's not what you care about. You care about leaving a lasting impact. So when I first saw, I'm going to give you, this is like what do you call it? A review online. First time I saw Trav Bell and his name was on an agenda at a mastermind, it said the bucket list guy building the blueprint for a better life through bucket list, right? Something to that effect. And I thought, very interesting, caught my attention, but I'm one of those gentlemen, and maybe there's others out there. We're all from different cuts from different cloths, who I was like, I'm not too worried about my own personal bucket list. Like to me at first, that sounds a little bit like buying a luxury car. I'm also not a luxury car guy, but I'm not against it. If Joe has a bucket, if John has a bucket list, I said, Joe, if John Edwin, the world famous John Edwin has a bucket list, I admire that, but I don't have one myself. Right. So I was a little bit put off. I'm like, I'm going to go because the guy seems like a talent. I went and if you're listening to this now, go to YouTube and type in Bucket List Guy TED Talk. You will be blown away. And as John said to me earlier, our version, the one you gave to us, was even better than your TED Talk. You'll be surprised, folks. And I want to let you tell them why they're going to be surprised, Trav, because your theory on bucket list is not what I thought it was. And I imagine a lot of people go into your session thinking, this is like buying a luxury car. It's like when you make it, you get to have plenty of money and go do awesome, epic trips. But that's not your point of your message, is it?
No, look, what it is really, underneath the surface, it's all positive psychology, right? So that's what, and I built what I do, and I present what I do to help me first. And it's obviously helped a lot of other people in the process. And it's to help me be happier, right? Help me have a more grateful existence, help me have more meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. And that's the pillars of positive psych, is positive psych versus regressive psychology. Regressive psychology is when, you use therapy or drugs to be normal again, to be a normal. But positive psych is performance-based psychology, where you go to your strengths and you identify in your strengths, the things that gives you more meaning, more purpose, more fulfillment, more gratitude, and you believe that into your work and into your life to have more happiness, all right? To have more sense of fulfillment. And so all I've done is put this bucket list brand over the top of it to make it more user-friendly, from kids to corporates. And at the end of the day, it seems to have resonated. And plus, a lot of people, I guess I wanted to debunk the thing that, a lot of people think of bucket list as, all the travel stuff that we want to do. And I'm like, right, well, that doesn't make sense to me, because there's a lot of people that sacrifice their happiness to enjoy later, waiting for the perfect time or someday to come around. That never comes around for a lot of people, even when they exit businesses, when they retire. They've got a couple of good years and then bang. And I was like, that depresses me more than anything. Someone that sacrificed their happiness and they only get a couple of good years at the end of it, they don't really enjoy it. So I'm talking about my dad here, and you know that story.
Yeah, please share that story, actually, because that was so powerful.
Yeah. And so, like, he didn't, like, he enjoyed his job, but he was in the same job as a fitter and turner, a diesel mechanic, his whole life to enjoy later. And, didn't enjoy his money along the way, didn't enjoy the time that he could get, with his family along the way. And there's a lot of people like that. We all know people like that. And so, and with the rising stats around depression, anxiety, suicides, youth suicides, the overprescription of antidepressants, and this thing now, Google it, called the loneliness epidemic, which is real. It's like, well, something's broken. So my whole thing is to wake people up, disrupt, shake them up, and then go, all right, well, here's some things that don't wait until the expensive, you've got all the money and your time and you do the travel thing on your bucket list. Here's 11 other categories that will help you kind of go north, south, east, west in your own brain and help you extract and articulate a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list that you can do right now, not wait until someday. And so it helps a person identify the low-hanging fruit that doesn't cost any, all it takes is intention, right? And I want to help people be happier now because of these. My fight is the depression stats, is these stats that I just mentioned. And it doesn't look like, and these stats are going through the roof. So I'm doing my bit to challenge the narrative around that, doing my bit to add, give them tools that they can do. And if you look at positive psych, it really is one of the things that can really help mental health.
Yeah. By the way, you did a great job in your presentation, and I think people are getting a sense of it here, of transmuting the idea of doing something extraordinary. And sometimes it's not as big as traveling or climbing a mountain, but you combined it eloquently with those you love. And that was another key part that I took away from your presentation, which goes back to maybe one of the antidotes to depression and loneliness is service to others and starting with your family.
Yeah,
that came out loud.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's two categories in there. I wrote the My Bucket List Blueprint, the book, and I did the TED Talk around it and what I presented to you guys. And it's there's two categories in there: kind acts for others, and also leave a legacy, which is about what you can do for other people. So sure, a bucket list is all about you, but then, and it is at the start, and so it should be. So you live the example for others to follow. And that's what I encourage all you guys to do when we spoke, is to live, and everyone watching and listening to this right now, is to be the example for others to follow, because we've got enough people who are bitching and complaining about the world and who are victims. We need more people to be the light for other people to follow, be the example, be a bucket lister, glass half full kind of person. And so, yeah, involve your family, have your bucket list, have your couple's bucket list, have a family bucket list, and even have a business bucket list as well.
So for our listeners, definitely check out Trav's bucket list talk on TED Talk. And one thing I found so powerful, when you listen to that, please stop and do the activities he's talking about. I didn't know where he was going when he literally had us draw like 8 lines or 10 lines down one side and 8 on the other, and said, hey, fill in all those blocks for how old you are. I just turned 44, and to visually see 44 out of my 80 blocks gone was incredibly powerful. And then at the end of the talk, you gave us 10 minutes to do something epic where guys in the room, by the way, this was at GoBundance. Trav was the keynote speaker at GoBundance in Dallas. And guys in that room did some really wild things in 10 minutes. Well, I actually completely failed, because I called my wife and I'm like, hey, let's book that 2-week trip to Italy and Rome right now. And she's like, John, I'm sitting with the 3 kids watching a movie. I go, no.
You don't understand. I've got 8 minutes.
And then we're talking. I'm like, babe, we have 5.5 minutes. We have to book this. I have to do something. She's like, gotta go, and literally hung up on me. So here's
Travis Bell wreaking havoc in marriages since.
But here's what I wanted to share with you. A surprise was at 3:40 p.m. See, I knew we were hopping on at 4 o'clock today, my time and Josh's time. At 3:40 p.m., we did book a 10-day trip to Europe where we're going to Prague and Austria, all over the place, like every day.
Nice, brother. Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's going to be an amazing. But, one thing you said during that 10 minutes is somebody came up and said, hey, I spoke to my dad for the first 10 years.
That was massive, wasn't it?
Massive.
And it's the relationship stuff that trumps all the stuff we could buy, buy or book or enter, or, it's the relation stuff. It's the relationship stuff. And, in that we've had a lot of people connect. There was a instance in South Africa when I spoke down there, and this older guy who obviously was in the cinema. I didn't even know he existed. And then in the end of it, like the end when we're sharing, this guy got up and he just goes, he was bawling. He's a big guy. He was bawling his eyes out. He's there by himself. He was in an entrepreneurs conference or something, and he goes, "What the just happened? What just happened?" He goes, "I haven't spoken to my son. I think he said for 7 years or something like that. Shit went down, and he hadn't spoken to his son for 7 years. And in the 10 minutes that we had available, he just rang his son, right? And his son, in the previous to the 7 years, he just didn't answer. He's like, see my number, and he just." But for some reason, in this 10 minutes, my son picked up. And I said, whoa. And he goes, that just never happens. And we had a chat, and we're having coffee next week.
Wow.
And he just go, I don't know what's happened here. Like, this is just, and he was uncontrollable. He was shaking. I've got goosebumps, and he goes, I can't thank you enough. He was just speechless, as I am now. And it's shit like that that gets me. In the same room, it was passing the microphone around, and this big, brash South African man got up, he grabbed the microphone, said, "Sir, what did you do?" And he goes, "I just bought our dream house." I said, "What? You just bought your dream house?" He goes, "Yes." Whoa. And then there's 400 people in the audience, and then over the other side, there was a scream. I've gone, and it was his wife. They weren't sitting together. And she's going, "You serious?" And he goes, "Yes." And they ran into the middle of the room, hugged, and I jumped over there with the microphone. And I said, "Sir, did you buy?" And she grabbed the microphone. She goes, "I've been on his back about buying this house for the last 10 years, and it took 10 fucking minutes with this arsehole." And I'm like, whoa. They hugged. It was beautiful. And so it's amazing, when I guess, John, this from personal training, mate, you can have all the theory in the world, but you've got to apply pressure. You've got to apply like extreme accountability, which you guys are great at. And that if you have to go over the top and boot camp that shit up or do whatever, like I used, as you know, from a PT point of view, John, I'll use threat, guilt, public humiliation, whatever to get the job done, right?
Oh, you guys.
Bullying, whatever. But
Just let's meet remotely, because a lot of times we'll be next to each other, and I think I make him a little nervous that I'm going to make push-ups or burpees.
I do say that
I've seen the size of you. You make me nervous. I'm over in Australia.
So, John, jump on me if you have, but I have a series of a bunch of questions, and they're hopefully they'll get to some interesting points. And we're going to do that right after this break. So there's like a little commercial break here. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Melanie McCallan. Josh and I are just so grateful for the many investors who already joined us at Accountable Equity. Accountable Equity is so much more than a capital group. It's really a community of accredited investors that want to learn and grow together. I just want to personally invite you, if you want to find out more about this type of investment and see if it's right for you and your family, please visit us at accountableequity.com.
Old school commercial break there. We are back with Trav Bell, the bucket list guy. Okay, we had to put the guy in there because I think that's your URL as well, right? The bucket list guy.
.com. That is
.com.
true.
All right. So, John, may I ask him a few? Here we go. Here's a couple quick questions. In the world you're in now, and to paraphrase, it's like you took your your personal training, a passion for that, and the entrepreneurship as a passion for that, like John, who's a legendary entrepreneur in that space as well. And you've now parlayed that into probably true entrepreneurism on many levels. And at some point you felt speaking was a calling for you. Okay. So you worked on yourself. You talk about how your first one didn't go so great. And now I would put you as a tier 1 speaker. If people are listening to this and you want to do any,
How many tiers are there?
I would put tier 1. I'll put,
I don't know where is that. I don't know where.
I'm glad you stopped me on that because you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tier 1's the bottom.
Yeah.
Tier 1. I'm going to put tier 1 at the top.
Yeah.
Tier 1. Tier 1's a premium. A premium speaker. So if you're listening to this and you're a corporation, you need a speaker. This guy's your guy. But
I just started.
yeah, travbell.com. So no, from speaking, you said let me think about it. One of the things that caught my attention going to some events with you as a speaker is you dive into the conference. Is that something that a lot of speakers do? I don't see it. And why do you do it? And is that something you would recommend to other speakers? Like you become an audience participant.
We get to, I got to shoot guns with you guys. We did, race car driving. We did indoor skydiving. Look, I think I do like to get involved. I love meeting people, and we're mates now. That's cool. And a lot of opportunities come from that, but I don't just do it for that. I like hanging out with good people, I will. But depending on the schedule, it just depends. When you come all the way over from Australia and you can't just, jump in for an hour and do your thing and then piss off, I
was going to give you even more credit. Not only are you good at that, but I kind of thought of it as a way for you to truly understand the vibe of the people and especially need it.
Yeah. And I think that's extremely important. I really don't think about it too much, to be honest, but I do like understanding and curating, I guess, my talk to suit the people.
Yeah.
I love to get in there early and meet the people and welcome drinks and all that sort of thing. And when you're having conversations, you start to see where everyone's at. And I've done a few talks in the past where I've just gone in blind and not even known, like just last minute kind of thing. And it's just an ugly message to market match.
It is.
And so it's good to understand the culture, where everyone's come from, where everyone's going, what their biggest problems are, and how you can add value. And for instance, that second talk that I did recently at Go Pundits, I did 3 things I've never done before. For one, that thing that I read out about my mate Cam, the eulogy, I've never read that out in public before at a conference ever. So thank you for giving me, the grace for that. And, there's a bunch of things that I like to try out as well. And you sort of get rid of a few, these stories would be more fitting for this group and probably not for this, so you do tweak things to suit the audience. And I think that's what I love to do. For me, this is my art form. It's my artistry to make that piece of art, my performance, my edutainment, performance suit that group, to make it resonate.
And, the reason I brought that up was because I thought you were a thoughtful person as your presentation shows. But there's a couple more quick questions. Maybe I'll hit them with you and then I'll let John and you and I talk about them. So another question our listeners are probably asking ourselves, because, a lot of these people are, they invest for passive income, or they want to understand how the world of economics works and the economy. You sold your studios, you sold franchises. I would love to understand the business of that for a moment. Let's just go back in time. You're a solid PT, personal trainer, and you get into the business side of it. Now, John, you were kind of like this too. Both of you guys, that's not the normal path. I imagine somebody who's really good at PT just enjoys making money as a PT. What was different about you, and what did you see as an opportunity? And what was your first step?
Well, unfortunately, the first business book I ever read was Michael Gerber's The E-Myth.
Me too.
So he's totally screwed me up and got this franchising, scaling, McDonaldizing, leverage scale thing in my head. And I'm like, all right, well, there's only so much there's so many hours in the day that I can do a PT. My record, John, was before I had a studio, my record was 63 1-hour mobile personal training sessions in a week.
Wow. And real quick, let me just quantify that.
Cooked myself. I was, a Superman back then.
Yeah, that is like, you can take an hour personal training session and you pretty much have to tack on like an extra 15 to 20 to 30 minutes. So if you did 63, you probably worked 90 plus hours that week.
Yeah, and I was cooked on the weekends, but you reckon I rested? No, I went out and partied. So I cooked myself, but I did that probably for about 3 years. I was flat out, and I wasn't really doing any group, because sort of personal group coaching or group training, sort of the boot camp stuff came after the one-on-one thing, really in the early days here. So I was training a lot of people, but then I went, you know what, I can't sustain this for too much longer. I started bringing people on, and that's where I started hiring other trainers, and it just simply went from there. So I always knew I was going to sort of moonwalk out of the picture and systemize and run the business. But, this is pre-internet, pre-social media and all that sort of stuff. And so as a result, had to build systems and, as robust as I possibly could. So we built a system, had to pioneer it, built a studio. I was the first personal training company to also put all of our clients on direct debits as well. And so we were signing clients up for 6 months and 12 months at a time. Whereas the rest of the industry was selling 10 packs, which I didn't get. So if someone wants to lose weight and tone up, I'm like, well, you're not going to achieve that in 10 sessions. Why are you selling them a 10 pack? So we started to operate more like a gym, but we're personal training instead. So I really love I still miss it, the cash flow of a gym. You can't beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you go from opening the gym to franchising? I mean, that's a total different animal, even from owning a gym.
Yeah, so I opened 3 myself, and I put a manager in each one of them, and the business model was 6 to 8 trainers, so 4 to 8 trainers and owner operator in each one. And so that was kind of the business model, in about 200 square meters of space. So we'd have all the systems kind of dialed in, and job descriptions for everyone, and hiring, and blah blah blah, all the systems that you could put in place. And so I had various coaches to help me along the way with all of that. The reason why I franchised, John, was because someone said, you can't franchise that. And I said, no. Sorry. So I'm a Taurian, born in the year of the ox. So that might have something to do with that. But I knew there was a guy in Melbourne, he'd franchised very successfully physiotherapy studios. And so I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can. So, but I always wanted to build an organization where I wasn't just all about me, because that's easy. In this day and age, it's a little bit different, because, you got your Instagram, celebrity trainers and that sort of thing, and they've leveraged off that brand. That wasn't kind of a thing back then. It was more about, rather than personal branding, it was more about, I was not a fan of personal branding back then. I was more of a fan of business branding. I mean, that's what people bought into. It was a business brand rather than Trav Bell's personal training.
Well said.
I guess I reckon I'm a frustrated engineer.
That's it.
So I'm behind the scenes, I'm a systems freak. Like, I love systems. I love inventing systems. I love getting creative about how things work and how things get put together. I love startup. That's just how I am. And when I coach people, I love coaching people around how to be more efficient, more productive.
That's actually where we started this call, was about the bucket list, because unlike most speakers who just get up and give a great motivational talk, you left us with tools and resources. And that's kind of what I wanted to make sure people know when they want to follow up with this. You engineered the bucket list blueprint and wrote a top-selling book about it.
Well, you got to, because, let's be honest. If a person wants to change their life, and you as a speaker, you come in and you're with them with a group for an hour. Like, if you're actually going to think you're going to change someone's life in an hour, it's pretty arrogant. It's pretty presumptuous, right? Sure, you've got to, release, edutain, and you've got to disrupt, and you've got to get people thinking differently. But at the end of the day, it's pretty presumptuous. So you got to leave them with take home. You got to leave them with things to do. And, I like giving people the skeleton. I say, go home, put the meat on the bones and discuss it with your family, pay it forward to your family, to your kids and into your businesses. And it's a piece of intellectual property that I've granted to be able to, help people be able to do that, easier. You got to do it, rather than we've all seen motivational speakers, and unfortunately I get put into that category. So I'm against, for speaking gigs, I'm against, old mate who's climbed Mount Everest with one arm, one leg and a blind dog, or the 6-time, gold medalist. And here I am, but funnily enough, it's the non-celebrity speakers, the celebrity speakers, they get booked. But it's the non-celebrities who have got a heap of content, a lot of take-home, who are more frequently booked, believe it or not.
Oh, really? And that's the thing. I'm going to repeat what I just heard him say, John. I've never heard anybody say this before, Trav. You're there for, number one, to edutain, so you got to keep it interesting while you get through your message. Number two, to disrupt their way of thinking. 3, to offer new thoughts. And then 4, to give them worksheets and things to take home so that they, instead of saying take them home and do homework, you say take it home and pay it forward. I think those are some really interesting nuances.
You'd learn it twice, don't you, when you pay it forward and you teach someone else.
It's a great job. Now, our listeners are probably saying, how do I find out more about this fellow? So why don't you share a little bit about how we can reach out? And John, if you have any further questions, grab them. But I'd love to hear the resources, if you could, for the audience.
Oh, and we've got a free resource, which if people want to dive deeper into this and really do an online version of what you've experienced, maybe we can't be face-to-face, they can go to www.buildyourbucketlist.com.au. And that's a free 7-day challenge that I run. And people hang out online with me and they do the 7-day challenge, which is really cool. I encourage everyone to have a crack at doing that. And it goes even deeper than the talks. So that's a good way to really integrate these messages. They can reach out to me on the socials and obviously the bucketlistguide.com as well. That's the main site.
And what time is it for you right now in the morning?
8:43 a.m. on Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning. I love it. A day ahead of us. You're in the future and it looks good. John,
the future looks so bright. So Travis, I do want to say something that we kind of touched upon earlier in the episode, but when I've always thought about bucket list, I've always thought about adventures and travel. And I love in your talk how you broke down bucket list as a acronym. And you don't even start with B. You start at different places. So guys, when you listen to his TED Talk, have a notebook ready and have bucket list written out. And Trav is going to walk you through what that looks like. And the other stuff, other than just the travel, that, the father that spoke to a son just so happened, but it didn't just so happen, right? He projected that. That was going to happen. And it was meant to happen at that time. The guy who bought his dream out. Like, these things are just so different from what you would think of bucket list, but so much more impactful. So thank you for making an impact in my life, in the life of my family, for pushing my wife and I to go on a bucket list adventure together that we're never going to forget in the spring in Europe. So thank you.
We're going to get you one of these, mate. I'm going to send over one of these. So when you're in Prague,
it's like
you're at the Prague Castle, which you have to go to.
We will.
We're going to get you these signs. Look at that hashtag ticket.
Oh, I need it.
Boom. Boom. So if you put in that hashtag, you'll see a bunch of our community members running around the world, getting selfies and putting up the hashtag.
Can I buy that on your website?
Not yet, but it's going up there. I'll get you one.
We need it. We just took a picture, guys. That's why there was silence.
The wonders of Zoom, making sure we don't have interference. Thank you so much, Trav. I caught that. I'll put it on social because everybody's got to see your Rollabana. Is that the Rollabana thing? Is that what it's called, a Rollabana?
Yeah. So it's a ticket before you kick it. So it's our little, we've got heaps of merch and stuff, and that's good. We're going to blow it up. We're going to really blow it up next year. I'm launching a membership site and all that sort of thing. And that's sort of been hanging around for a couple of years now, but you're going to see more of that going on.
It's awesome to get to know you, buddy. And thanks for letting us share this with the world.
Awesome. Oh, just muted yourself.
Have a wonderful day in the future, brother. Wait,
I'll get some tech team. I could probably hook you up.
well, it's like what is it? The Back to the Future, right? You're in the future. Where we're going, you don't need roads. So now that I know you're in the future, are there roads?
There are roads, but everyone's flying above them. Everyone's flying above them. They're not connected to roads anymore. No one drives cars anymore. No one drives
I appreciate that, brother. And it's all powered by what do you call it? Banana peels and leftover coffee.
That's it. Yeah,
all right, my friend. Thank you so much.
Guys, absolute honor and privilege. Thanks so much for having me on the show, guys. Just reach out. We want to do chapter 2. Cheers.
Absolutely. Damn straight. We just got
buddy.
We got to the end of another great show. And everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends. Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.